So I know it's been a while since I've done this, but life happens. I'm busy. Get off my back. Um, and this I'm not very happy with. So I'm going to talk to you about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman while I clean my head up. And I'm going to go get a haircut right now, and then I'm going to shave. So haircut, boom, I'm back. Movie magic. But man, my beard. I'm going to have to take care of that while I talk to you guys about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. Let me give you a bit of an overview on the Trayvon Martin-George Zimmerman story. This isn't going to be incredibly detailed, but, I have a feeling if you're watching this, you know what's going on, and you can deal with just a short explanation. First, we heard the story. 17-year-old Trayvon Martin gets shot and killed in his Florida neighborhood by a man in his late 20s named George Zimmerman. Zimmerman was actually the head of his local neighborhood watch group and decided that while he was out and about, Trayvon Martin looked a little suspicious to him, so he decided to follow him. Zimmerman called the police as he was doing this and told them about this suspicious-looking kid, and the police actually told him to stop doing that. This is the point where the whole thing could have stopped, but it didn't. Let me shave a little bit. I'll be right back. After getting off the phone with the police, George Zimmerman went back to his car and was supposedly attacked by Trayvon Martin. This fight was only witnessed by one other person, and that person didn't even see everything very clearly. Zimmerman sustained a few injuries during this fight, and that later helped build the self-defense case that eventually got him acquitted. But it was during this fight, due to that feeling that he thought he might die, he pulled out his gun and shot Trayvon Martin. This became the basis for the Florida Stand Your Ground Law argument that was discussed so much over the last few months. Basically, the Stand Your Ground Law says that if you feel like you are physically threatened, and you can later prove it in court, the murder you commit is justified. Which, if I'm being perfectly honest, is just a little too broad for me to be a valid argument in court against murder. It's not fair that perceived deadly threat is enough to justify murder. The issue with this here is that while Zimmerman had a gun, Martin did not. Martin didn't have any weapon and therefore didn't pose any deadly threat against Zimmerman, which is why the stand your ground defense eventually was thrown out. Now that I'm almost done shaving, I have moved the camera so that there's more light on my face and we have a little bit of background. It's time to talk about everyone's outrage over the verdict of not guilty for George Zimmerman. Let's try and remember that not guilty is not the same as innocent. We all know that Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. Zimmerman admitted it. The purpose of the court case was to decide if Trayvon Martin's death was justified in the eyes of the law, if Zimmerman was, in fact, defending himself from a person he perceived Martin to be. Now we know the verdict. We now know that a jury of Zimmerman's peers decided that Zimmerman was, in fact, defending himself from an attack by Trayvon Martin. The fact of the matter is, we can't know what really happened. We can't know if Zimmerman is lying to us and Martin didn't really attack him first. We can't know if Zimmerman decided to chase Martin and get into a fight with him and kill him. It's similar to the Casey Anthony case, where there just isn't enough evidence for us to know exactly what happened. Boom, another lighting change. Man, for some reason it's getting dark outside. I think it's just cloudy. I don't know. It's 6:15 in the afternoon. It can't be dark yet. Anyway, we have to remember that the truth of an event is written by those who witnessed it. Without a living victim, we don't have another person who can tell another version of the events of that night. So we have to believe the person who was there, George Zimmerman, at least in the eyes of the law. By the way, I think I'm done shaving. I think I'm back to where I was around May, so like when I started this vlog. So that's cool, I guess. Anyway, for those of you who were going on about how no justice was served and that our justice system is broken, these are my words for you. So for those of you who are going on about how no justice was served and our justice system is broken, these are my words for you. You may choose to not believe George Zimmerman about the events of that night, but belief has nothing to do with our justice system. If we simply convicted everyone who we believed was guilty of a crime, far more people would be in jail right now. Oh, man, so far too old. You may choose to not believe George Zimmerman about the events of that night, but the fact of the matter is belief has nothing to do with our justice system. If we simply convicted everyone who we believed was guilty of a crime, we would have far more people in prison. In our justice system, which I believe is the best one we could possibly come up with, we can't believe anything about the law. We have to know beyond a reasonable doubt that something happened to make a conviction. And we honestly just don't know what happened that night. And we honestly just don't know what happened that night with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, which is why I don't like people like Nancy Grace so much. We have to stop convicting people in the court of public opinion before they even appear in a court of law. We have to stop condemning people before we even know the facts. The majority of people who are upset with the not guilty verdict on George Zimmerman seem to feel some kind of superiority to him. Like because he killed a boy he didn't know for appearing to be something that he wasn't makes him somehow less human to us. But haven't we done the same thing to him? Haven't we made up our mind about him without really knowing? Zimmerman decided that Trayvon Martin was suspicious and stopped there. But we decided that George Zimmerman was a cold-blooded murderer and stopped right there. But they're both more than those labels, just like we are. Zimmerman knows he killed someone. He has to live with that. But we have to live with what we have done, condemning a man without seeing all of the evidence.